I wanted to check so you to make sure that I'm not going to I've seen you all the Sunday since my first Sunday surprise you. Had
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. My name is Reverend Sally Fritchie, and I'm the Associate Minister of this congregation. We are a church of many different theologies and identities, united by our shared commitment to building community, seeking inspiration, promoting justice, and finding peace. I remind you, as we all find our seats and crowd in together, to keep an eye on the color-coded lanyards of your neighbors and try to be respectful of everyone's needs and boundaries. Continued masking is welcome here, but no longer required on Sunday mornings when we gather together. We're a congregation of all ages, which means we embrace all the little noises or disruptions that our kids can bring into a Sunday morning. Our formal religious exploration classes ended with the end of the school year and will begin again after Labor Day. So in the meantime, kids are welcome to stay up here with their grown-ups on Sundays, and people of any age are welcome to hang out at the activity table just there, or grab a coloring kit from there if you're getting a little bored or distracted at any point. I'll do my best to keep things interesting up here. And it might help that today's service is inspired by a literal kid's toy. You may have heard of her, Barbie. You may have heard that a very popular Barbie movie came out this summer. If not, tell me your secret for staying off media. The movie starred Margot Robbie and was written and directed by the Oscar-nominated director Greta Gerwig. What you might not know is that Greta Gerwig grew up Unitarian Universalist. And she talks quite openly in interviews about how much that upbringing shaped her worldview and her storytelling choices. So, like many others, I got all dressed up in pink this July and went with some friends to see the Barbie movie. And this service isn't going to be a movie review. Sorry. And while I can't avoid spoilers entirely, I won't be summarizing the plot of the Barbie movie or getting into debates about what was good or bad, feminist or not feminist enough about this or that element in the story. But it was impossible for me to watch a movie like that without thinking, that'll preach. So let's enjoy a pink and a sparkly Sunday and take some time to think about what this Barbie can teach us about ourselves. Whether this is your first Sunday with us or your millionth, whether you're here in the sanctuary or watching from afar online, you are welcome here. This service is here for you. May you find in it something that you need. And now I'll invite us to take a moment to turn in our seats, stand if you like, and briefly greet your neighbors. You might simply wave, quietly put your hand on your heart, shake hands, say hello. You may have noticed it's getting awfully crowded in here. If you have an empty seat next to you, go ahead and squeeze in so that the people who arrived at church late, who I'm sure no one will have a place on the edge that they can sit. So if there's empty seats next to you, sit next to your neighbor if you're comfortable doing that. All right, whenever we gather, we light a flaming chalice, which is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. It marks out this time as something special and sacred. If you have a chalice or candle at home, I invite you to light it now with us. We will light our chalice this morning with words spoken by Barbie in the Barbie movie. May her words inspire and illuminate. You're welcome to read along from your order of service if you wish. She says, I want to be part of the people that make meaning, not the thing that's made. I want to do the imagining. I don't want to be the idea. May this flame remind us that we are people who can make meaning. May it help us do the imagining we need to do together. And now, our opening song.
I am not a pretty girl. That's not what I do. I ain't no damsel in distress, and I don't need to be rescued. So put me down, punk. Would you prefer a maiden fair? Isn't there a kitten stuck up a tree somewhere? And I am not an angry girl, but it seems like I've got everyone fooled. Every time I say something you find hard to hear, you chalk it up to my anger, never to your own fear. And imagine you're a girl, just trying to finally come clean, knowing full well they prefer you were dirty and smiling. Well, I am sorry that I am not your maiden fair. I am not your kitten stuck up a tree somewhere. Generally, my generation wouldn't be caught dead working for the man. Generally, I agree with them. Trouble is you got to have yourself an alternate plan. I have earned my disillusionment. I've been working all my life. I am a patriot. I have been fighting the good fight. What if there are no damsels in distress? What if I knew that and I called your bluff? Don't you think every kitten figures out how to get down, whether or not you ever show up? I don't want to be a pretty girl. I want to be more than a pretty girl. I'm so much more than a pretty girl.
Thank you, Laura Robinson, for setting the tone for today's service. So early on in the Barbie movie, Barbie, having recently left her home in Barbie land where everyone is Barbie and nothing ever changes, goes to the real world for the first time, and she sees an old woman sitting at a bus stop, and she just stares at her with huge eyes and the biggest grin on her face. She says, "You're beautiful." The woman grins back and says, "I know." And call me a you minister, but I saw that in theaters and was like, I think this Barbie is Buddha. So today's Time for All Ages is a story from Buddhist tradition about the life of Siddhartha Gautama, which is what the Buddha was called before he found enlightenment and became the Buddha. And since we have all these Barbies, I thought we could tell this story with a little hands-on participation. So if there are any kids or kids at heart who want to help out, you can come up here and grab a Barbie. I'm going to need you to think about how you're going to help your Barbies pretend to be old, how to help your Barbies pretend to be sick, even how to help your Barbies pretend to be dead. If you think you can help out with this story, I'm going to put the Barbies up here. and turn off our projector so you don't get blinded. Once upon a time, a princess was born in a very wealthy kingdom. Her name was Siddhartha Barbie. Her parents wanted her to grow up protected from anything bad ever happening to her. So they built high walls around the palace and filled the grounds with, these aren't playing Barbies, these are someone's beautiful, ancient, antique Barbies. They built high walls around the palace and filled their grounds with beautiful fruit trees and flowers and gave their daughter everything she ever asked for. They had only the most beautiful, healthy young servants be her friends and teachers. But Siddhartha Barbie was curious about the world, and eventually she convinced one of her friends, Channa, who worked as a charioteer for the royal family, to help her sneak out and see the real world beyond the palace walls. Our Channa is the chariot. On their journey outside, Channa and Siddhartha Barbie would come across what Buddhists would later call the four sights. They didn't know at first there were going to be four. They just went along the road and wanted to look at everything. Stop! What's that? I've never seen anything like that before. Siddhartha Barbie was pointing at an old person. Can you make your Barbies be old? How can we tell they're old? That's an old person, said Channa. They look so different from me. They have wrinkles, white hair. They're walking all bent over. Those things happen to everyone who lives long enough, said Channa. You mean I will grow old? Well, growing old is part of being alive. Siddhartha Barbie had a lot to think about. They continued going down the road until, stop, what's that? I've never seen anything like that before. Siddhartha Barbie was pointing at a sick person. You Barbies be sick? What do sick people look like? That's a person who has an illness, said Channa. They look so different from me. Their skin is sweaty and pale. They're throwing up. Those things happen when you get the wrong kind of germs in your body, said Channa. You mean that can happen to my body too? Well, being vulnerable to illness is part of being alive. They continued going down the road until, what's that? I've never seen that before. Siddhartha Barbie was pointing at a funeral. That's a funeral, said Channa. The person there has died and he's being returned to the water of the sacred river. Barbie said, it looks like they're not even in their body anymore. They're not even breathing. The people with them look so sad. You Barbies look sad. Death is a kind of ending, said Channa. It can be very sad. But wait, said Siddhartha Barbie. Will I die too? Well, dying is part of being alive. The world outside the palace is a terrible place, said Siddhartha Barbie. There's nothing but old age and illness and death. And from what you tell me, there's nothing any of us can do about it. But look, said Channa. What's that? I bet you've never seen that before. Channa was pointing at the fourth sight, and it was someone who was meditating. I want to see what a meditating Barbie looks like. That person, said Channa, is trying to look inward and understand where all this pain and suffering comes from, so that maybe we'll be able to do something about it. So yes, all those hard things are part of being alive, but they aren't all there is, because there's also the path to enlightenment. And with those four sights, old age, illness, death, and the search for truth, Siddhartha Barbie returned to the palace, and that night, she started making plans to leave the safety of her home forever, and she started down the path to enlightenment and one day, Buddhahood. The end. Thank you to all my Barbies. Beautifully done. If you want to hold on to your Barbie for the rest of the service, you're welcome to do that. We'll collect them at the end. A Barbie bond can develop very quickly. I don't want to tear apart any new families over here. Thank you all very much. You're good storytellers. Each Sunday here at UUCUC, we make space to share the joys and sorrows that are closest to our own hearts. We usually take a long pause. We've all seen Barbie hair lit on fire. We take a long pause with music to give folks time to write down the personal joys and sorrows they're carrying and might wish to share, writing either on a card or in an email message to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. That goes for people at home and here in Fellowship Hall. You're allowed to get out your phone and write an email. The ushers will collect any written cards, and the worship leader, me, will read them aloud, any shared messages, so that we'll all have a chance to celebrate each other's joyful news and support each other's grief. During the pause, while folks are writing and music is playing, those who wish to can also come forward, take a moment at our altar table. You might drop a glass bead into our vessel of water, letting it sink and grounding us, or you might drop a flower petal onto the surface of the water, letting it balance between water and air while you take a breath. Written joys and sorrows can be left up here on the altar table to be read aloud. Together we'll hear our blessing song, Longtime Son. While we listen and sing, you're invited to write the joys and sorrows you'd like to share and come forward to the altar table if you wish. you. A joy from Julie Lout. Mark, Julie, and Celia and I are thrilled to share the news that my parents are moving to Urbana. Their new home should be complete later this fall, and we hope to have them fully settled in early in 2024. This has been a dream of ours for many years. We are so excited that it's finally happening. From Linda Owens, thank you to the search committee for their hard work and yummy dinner last night. From Stella, who says it's kind of both joy and sorrow. I presently came out as non-binary, and it's been wonderful, but also hard. From Elissa, a joy. Moved into my own apartment a block away from here. After half a year of attempted city life and half a year crashing in my parents' attic. So full of gratitude. Thank you. A sorrow from Jim and Sandy Hannum. We mourn the death of a longtime friend, Dixie Witt. Dixie taught at the University of Illinois in microbiology and was a resident of Clark Lindsay Village. A concern from Cameron and Michelle Pitzel. Prayers for our cat, Nori, who will be undergoing exploratory surgery this week to resolve an improperly performed spay. Sorrow from Jerry Cardin and Tim Temple. A dear friend that suffered many years with deep depression left this world on Friday. Finally, a sorrow from Jenna Zeidler. My mom passed away on August 6th at age 82. We're all hurting, but it's a comfort to know that right up until her stroke, she was living independently just as she wanted, running around Homer in her golf cart, playing cards with her friends, and loving on her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Thank you for sharing, those who did. Thank you for helping to hold what has been shared, everyone who's here. No matter what joys or sorrows you are carrying in your heart today, whether they are spoken or unspoken, whatever it is that you're going through, I pray that you feel the love of this community stretching between us and holding you up. I pray that you always find in that love whatever it is that you need most. Our meditative music today will be a sung response to the joys and sorrows we've shared. You can remain seated, and I invite you to join in singing, humming, or simply listening to this hymn, Guide My Feet. It comes from the musical tradition of African American spirituals, and its words are inspired by Psalm 119 in the Hebrew Bible. It's a kind of gentle sung prayer asking for the support, clarity, and community needed to get through life's ups and downs. With that, please take a breath and join in hearing and singing hymn number 348 in the gray hymnal, Guide My Feet. Today's first reading comes to us from the summer blockbuster Barbie movie. It's a scene in which Barbie speaks directly to her creator, Ruth Handler, the woman who first designed the doll in 1959. I will invite our Barbie and our Ruth forward now.
What do you want? I don't know. I'm not really sure where I belong. I've always been stereotypical Barbie, and I don't think I'm good at anything else. I don't think I have an ending.
That was always the point. I created you so you wouldn't have an ending. You understand humans only have one ending. Ideas live forever. Humans, not so much. You know that, right?
I do.
Being human can be pretty uncomfortable.
I know.
Then you die.
Yeah, but I want to be part of the people that make meaning, not the thing that's made. I want to do the imagining. I don't want to be the idea. Do you give me your permission to become human?
You don't need my permission.
But you're the creator. Don't you control me?
I can't control you any more than I can control my own daughter. I named you after her, Barbara. And I always hoped for you what I hoped for her. We mothers, we stand still so our daughters can look back and see how far they've come.
So being human's not something I need to ask for or even want. It's something that I just discover that I am.
I can't in good conscience let you take this leap without knowing what it means. Take my hand, now close your eyes and feel.
Morning. Can everyone hear me? Okay. My name is Cindy Ingold, and I'm here to do the Community Matters and an REE announcement. So we as Unitarian Universalists acknowledge that our circle of care doesn't stop at our church doors. We are deeply connected to the community we find ourselves in and to the wider world. Please continue to keep an eye on your e-news, weekly newsletter for opportunities to show up, find support, get involved, and be part of this community. And remember that next week will be our annual Water Communion in Gathering service led by our new lead minister, Reverend Beth Mulholland, and I know she's here. She was playing with Barbies earlier. We'll be back in the sanctuary probably, unless it's 110 degrees. And you are all invited to bring some water from a source that is meaningful to you so you can add it to our communal bowl. We're also excited to soon begin a new year of religious exploration and engagement programs for children, youth, and adults, and that begins on September 10th. The online registration form is now open to get your child or youth enrolled, and there is a form on the bulletin board over here with a QR code, and in the back on a stand with the QR code that you can use to get to the registration form, or you can also go to the web page. I also want to make you aware that we're doing a program called Crossing Paths this year. It's an interactive class where we will learn about and get to experience different world religions. This class will be offered on Sunday afternoons from September to June and is open to youth in 7th grade and older, their parents, and all adults from the congregation. And most importantly, we are still looking for a few good people to help teach and complete our REE teaching teams on Sundays, especially in the following age groups: pre-KK, grades 1 and 2, and if you sign up for that, you get to teach with me, grades 3, 4, and crossing paths. If your children have benefited from REE in the past, or if you have interest in working with children or youth, please see me or Natalie. I think Natalie is here. Yes, she was playing with the Barbies too. As we really need you. No experience is necessary. We'll provide all the training and curriculum. Your volunteer time commitment may only be 1 to 2 times a month. The more volunteers we have, the lighter the teaching requirements. So I'm really up here pushing you to get involved. So each Sunday, in recognition of our very real interdependence and reliance on each other, we pass the plate and share our offering with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. For our August Sundays, we are sharing our plate with First Followers, a local nonprofit focused on helping formerly incarcerated people reintegrate into the community in healthy and well-supported ways. 2 First Followers organizers, Tamika and Tiger, spoke at our first service this month on August 6th. And I encourage you to go back and watch the video of their remarks if you missed them, because they shared how powerfully this organization has impacted our local community and themselves personally. And it was very, very moving. You can give by text through the online portal on our website. Or if you're here in the sanctuary, the basket will be passed and checks can be made out to UUCUC. Half of what you give will go towards sustaining the work of the church. The other half will go directly to First Followers. We invite you to give whatever is generous for you and know that anything you contribute will be greatly received and put to use helping to make a real impact for people who need it. The basket will now be passed.
That scene in Barbie we heard earlier, where Barbie asked her creator for permission to become human, isn't necessarily the most important scene in the movie or even the most memorable, but it immediately resonated with me and made me think of a few other stories. Stories that similarly have something to say about childhood toys and the process of becoming real. So I wanted to ask our next batch of readers, John and Anne, to come forward again and let us hear a couple more words from those perhaps better known stories.
This first reading comes from Pinocchio, The Tale of a Puppet, written by Carlo Collodi in 1883. I will study. I will work. I will do all that you tell me, for indeed I have become weary of being a puppet. And I wish at any price to become a real boy, said Pinocchio. And he kept his word for the remainder of the year. At the end of it, he He passed first in all his examinations, and his report was so good that the fairy said to him happily, "Tomorrow your wish will come true. When you wish upon a star."
And this next reading comes from The Velveteen Rabbit, written by Marjorie Williams in 1922. "What is real?" asked the rabbit one day when they were lying side by side in the nursery before Nana came to tidy the room. "Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle?" "Real isn't how you are made," said the skin horse. "It's the thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real." "Does it hurt?" asked the rabbit. "Sometimes," said the skin horse, for he was always truthful. "When you are real, you don't mind being hurt." "Does it happen all at once, like being wound up?" he asked, "or bit by bit?" "It doesn't happen all at once," said the skin horse. "You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to those who break easily or have sharp edges or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all. Once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand."
Thank you. Thank you to all our readers. In response to those readings, I'll invite us all to sing a hymn that is about becoming. "I Know This Rose Will Open." It's number 396 in the gray hymnal, and it's meant to be sung more than once, so we're going to sing it 3 times through. And you can please stand if standing is comfortable for you. Join in singing, "I Know This Rose Will Open." In the story of Pinocchio, written, as John said, in the 1800s, a puppet longs to become a real boy. In The Velveteen Rabbit, written in the 20s, a stuffed animal gains the quality of realness through the slow magic of being loved by a child, eventually being turned by a fairy into a real live bunny and set free to live with the wild rabbits in the fields. And in this year's Barbie movie, a doll talks to her creator about what it means to be human and how she longs to be the person imagining and not the idea that's being imagined. There's definite commonalities. Where are these stories coming from? Is there something across time and culture that makes us want to tell and retell different versions of toys becoming real? It could be as simple as all of us wishing our beloved childhood possessions could love us back the way we love them, and then inventing stories in which they do. In the even more ancient version of the story, the Greek myth of Pygmalion, it seems pretty straightforwardly about this childish type of wish. A sculptor falls in love with a beautiful statue he's carved and prays to the gods that she be turned real so he can marry her. What she wants is not really part of that story. But in these other versions, the puppet, the rabbit, the Barbie, it's through their eyes that the story is told, which makes me think they're about more than just wishing our toys could talk. I can't help but feel that these stories about an object's longing to become real reveal some long-standing wish in the storytellers and listeners to become real ourselves. A desire in us to not be an object or an idea, but to become a real person. So what would it even mean for a person, a living, breathing human being, to want to become real? How can anyone be more or less real than they already are? I admit I am straying a little into abstraction, but maybe we can make it more concrete by thinking of some examples. When people say, be real, they mean be honest or stop lying to yourself. That gets us somewhere, but I think there's more to being real than just that. What are some other words we might use to mean the same thing as real here? Do you have any thoughts? Honest, true, solid, present. If you have something to add, you can shout it out. I'll repeat it so we can all hear it. Genuine. Authentic. Complete. Thank you. So now, can we try to think of any times in our lives when we have felt our most real? Times or places or people that have made you feel especially human, solid, present, whole, authentic. Thank you, plant. At church, at a friend's house. For me, the first thing that comes to mind is a specific memory when I was home for Christmas one year, standing around the kitchen with my siblings up late one night, reading aloud from our old childhood diaries, and laughing so hard that I almost peed my pants. That feeling of total presence, openness, fully inhabiting myself in that moment, not being in total control and having that be okay. We'll all be different in what comes to mind. Maybe your realness comes out when you're alone in nature or when you're in a state of flow, fully absorbed in a task. It doesn't have to be a happy feeling, being real. That feeling of intense realness, presence, or clarity, or humanity might come at the deathbed of a loved one or at a personal rock bottom. But when it shows up, it feels true in a way that sticks out. And getting closer to that feeling, holding on to it, is worthwhile, I think. And now, can you think of times when you felt less real? What are some words for that, the opposite of real? Untethered. Invisible. Soulless, virtual. Insincere. Fake. Dishonest. What are some times that you have felt that way? Absent, hollow. And being less real doesn't necessarily mean lying. It can have nothing to do with you at all when others treat you as if you're not real, as if your feelings aren't real. That can stick with you, make you feel less real than you really are. For me, what comes to mind are the times that I forget that I'm more than just the roles I'm trying to fill. I remember a day on the job early in my internship ministry outside Boston when I felt so completely overwhelmed and incapable. I was sitting in this ice-cold office at a desk that wasn't mine, wearing uncomfortable business casual clothes that I hated, trying so hard to look the way a minister is supposed to look and act the way a minister is supposed to act, and feeling like I couldn't let anyone know how in over my head I was. Couldn't let anyone know I wasn't really a minister, because what then? I wouldn't really be anything. And luckily, my then supervising minister stuck her head in the door and asked if I'd listen to the new Beyonce album. And I literally burst into tears on her. Tears of relief that ministers can do things like listen to Beyonce and not just be 100% wise and loving and serious at all times. So thank you, Reverend Katie, if you're watching this. So yeah, if we all have times when we feel more real or less real, it makes sense that we would feel some pull toward the places, people, and experiences that let us feel that we're truly present, truly ourselves. It makes sense that so many generations will tell these magical stories about objects that want to become people, because that's us. Characters who leave those feelings of not realness behind forever. And the fact that these are children's stories involving wishes and fairy magic maybe reveals that we suspect it would take a miracle before we could feel really real ourselves, before we could get free of the ideas of who we're supposed to be, or who others expect or think we are. In that snippet from Pinocchio, we hear that Pinocchio earns his realness by being good and working hard. Pinocchio's author, coincidentally, was born into a Catholic family in Italy in the 1800s. The story was intended, at least in part, to teach moral lessons to children about the good behavior expected of them. You can earn your personhood by following the rules, by getting good grades. The Velveteen Rabbit is quite different. Its transformation comes through the deep and true love of a child, not through anything the rabbit has to do to earn that love. But still, becoming real is something that happens to you in that story, bestowed by an outside power far greater than yourself. And then there's Barbie. She isn't loved into being by a child, nor is she granted realness for her good behavior. Instead, she's told by her creator, "You don't need my permission." And she has to look inside and recognize the ways that she already is real. She has to close her eyes and feel. Barbie is changed by the journey she's been on, with or without permission from her creator. And well, that's very you. Why did I tell the Buddhist story of Siddhartha and the 4 sights earlier? Because in the telling, it's so easy for us to see the ways that Siddhartha's safe life behind the palace walls wasn't real, it wasn't even life. When nothing is allowed to change, to grow up and grow old, get cellulite and wild haircuts, be vulnerable and die, then even the most perfect life will be a lie. Too often we see our realness, when it makes itself felt, as a flaw or a failure. We try to hide the ways we're changed by the world, physically or emotionally. Try to hold in that belly laugh for fear we might pee a little. Keep wearing the clothes you hate so no one will accuse you of not fitting your role. Keeping everything surface level and smooth for the sake of what? Protecting ourselves? Protecting others from ourselves? Being a human can be pretty uncomfortable, said Barbie's creator in the movie. And then you die. I made you so you don't have to have an ending. And Barbie says, I know, but I want to be part of the people that make meaning and not the thing that is made. I want to do the imagining. I don't want to be the idea. And don't we all? Some people have expressed surprise or confusion over the phenomenon that is the Barbie movie this summer. Why are grown women and people of all genders dressing up in pink and lining up to watch what could be fairly critiqued as a nostalgia-fueled 2-hour-long toy advertisement? And partly it's just about fun, joy, and silliness. The pure inner child healing work of realizing that wearing pink doesn't make you less serious or less grown up or less capable. But it isn't just that. Because when I've brought up this movie over the past few weeks and asked people's thoughts about it, I've heard this cathartic outpouring of grief and healing and surprise, frustration, guilt, rage, hope, and this kind of relief that Someone had finally bothered to put words to some of the things we need to be talking about, and that they did it in a blockbuster movie, no less. The Barbie movie is definitely about gender. It has a message that can be appreciated by people of all genders, I think, but it is specifically about the ways that women are undermined and trapped by double binds and impossible standards. I don't think I've ever heard the word patriarchy used so many times in any other movie. And it had to be about gender because Barbie, the doll, is so gendered. She's always been an image, an ideal of thin, white, blonde womanhood, an astronaut and a lawyer and a veterinarian and a beautiful bride. The world is full of women who have been taught in one way or another that we should be trying to be like her. But then this conversation Barbie has with her creator, she reminds us all the ways it's exhausting to be an idea, an object, instead of a person. It's exhausting to be treated that way by others, and it's perhaps most exhausting when you see yourself that way. And it turns out she wants to be like us. She wants to be real, even with the aging and illness and, yes, death. And while the message of Barbie is certainly about femininity and mothers and daughters, it resonates across human experience because it's about a longing for personhood, not necessarily for womanhood. And it reminds us that what we are, our flawed realness, is valuable, is precious. It's the happily ever after that characters in fairy tales wish for when they get a wish. And it's something that we already have. It's easy to watch a story like Barbie and cheer the idea of her becoming a real girl, or be happy for Pinocchio when his good behavior finally earns him his wish. It's harder to do the work of becoming real ourselves, letting go of being the idea of us, embracing the real even when it makes us ugly or weird, even when it makes things harder. So that's my wish for all of us today. May we all become real. Whenever we can, wherever we can. May we learn to see ourselves beyond our roles, beyond the idea of you, and see that humanness as precious. Finally, may we make space for other people to become real to us as well, instead of just ideas. Remember that it is not just us on the road toward enlightenment, struggling with change and illness and loss. As the characters in the Velveteen Rabbit said, generally by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off. Your eyes drop out, you get loose in the joints, and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. Let us be the people who understand, the people who make meaning and not the thing that is made. Amen.
Sing along if you can't help yourself. I'm trying to tell you something about my life. Maybe give me insight between black and white. Well, the best thing you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all, yeah. Well, darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and lightness has a call that's hard to hear. I wrap my fear around me like a blanket. I sail my ship of safety till I sank it. Now I'm crawling on your shores. I went to the doctor I seek my source for some definitive, closer I am to find, yeah, closer I am to find. Well, I went to see the doctor of philosophy with a poster of Rasputin and a beard down to his knees. He never did marry or see a B-grade movie. He graded my performance. He said he could see through me. Well, I spent 4 years prostrate to the higher mind. Got my paper and I was free. I went to the doctor. I went to the mountains. I looked to the children and I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source for some definitive, what closer I am to find, yeah, closer I am to find. Well, I stopped by the bar at 3 a.m. to seek solace in a bottle or possibly a friend. I woke up with a headache like my head against the board, twice as cloudy as I'd been the night before, and I went in seeking clarity. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, and I drank from the fountains. Yeah, we go to the doctor, we go to the mountains, we look to the children, we drink from the fountains. Yeah, we go to the Bible, we go through the workout, we read up on revival, and we stand up for the lookout. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source for some definitive, closer I am to find, yeah, closer I am to find, closer I am to
Thank you, Laura. Before we extinguish our chalice and begin our fellowship hour, I have a request from the hospitality team that anyone who is able can grab a chair and just move it to the side walls. We ended up with a very crowded room today. It'll be hard for us to get around once we're all standing up. So with that, I invite you to join me in saying our chalice extinguishing words written by UU Minister Reverend Elizabeth Selly-Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace.